Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where investors with a special emphasis on couples begin, continue, and deepen their journey to financial freedom together using the powerful vehicle of real estate investing to do it. And today we've got a power couple on the podcast. We have Chaya and Heshel Mangel. How are you guys today?
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. So to start, why don't you guys tell the audience a little bit about where you guys are and where you've come?
Sure. We are in Cincinnati, Ohio. We live here. I actually am born and bred here in Cincinnati. We moved here about 2.5 years ago, brought her back to Cincinnati, where we have been exploring the real estate industry and real estate investing, growing the business here the last couple of years. Did start on the business while we were not yet living back here, but once the business started to pick up some steam, we did move back and able to focus on that full time now. So been spending the last couple of years really growing the business, buying multifamily around the area and meeting more of the network and bringing in more investors. And it's been a really exciting time.
Very cool. And what about you, Chaya?
So I moved here because of him. I am more, I guess, in the background, don't have day-to-day things with the real estate. I am just about graduating nursing school, so that's my path.
Very cool.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So Heshel and Chaya, let's talk about how you guys got started. How long ago did you guys start investing in multifamily?
Been about 3 years, I would say. That's when I was really first introduced to the business as a whole, as a method of investment and as a means of a business. I was really first introduced to just about 3-4 years ago, I would say. Before that, had no real direct connection to the industry at all. So it's something that we've been exploring and learning together as time went on, until first exploring it as an investment opportunity and then as a business.
So let's talk a little bit about this. I was going to ask you guys, how did you first get that spark, both of you guys, to learn about real estate investing in general? Because obviously, 4 years ago is not too long ago, but it's also not recent as well. So you guys have been with this for quite a while. Talk about that spark and who got that, and then how did you guys have that conversation at home? What happened?
I mean, it was Heshel, really. He was working in a job that he knew he didn't want to do long term. And I guess you saw that sign on the street, right? You want to tell them about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to friends and other people who were in the industry, and really credited to them for lighting that fire as just a different way of life. But in terms of the investing side of it, I mean, I was always interested in personal finance and how to be responsible with our finances and how to grow it in the right way, in the responsible way. And I think we really went on a journey of finding different vehicles of how we can invest our finances and start from saving to growing to, preserving the capital that we are building, so started very slow, and dabbling in different things in the market. And then, as we started to learn more about real estate and the opportunities that we have to invest in real estate, then really starting to learn the industry, from step one, from ground zero, and realize that it's a very powerful tool for growing and preserving your own personal finances and the benefits that are in the industry. And I think we first started it from that perspective of, the personal finance perspective, and then it's wow, this is really powerful. And I think I have an opportunity to actually make this into, a revenue stream and a business as well. So it started from how are we going to take care of ourselves and our family and the capital that we do have, to now, okay, this could be a full-time business.
That's awesome. And for our listeners and people who are viewing, Heshel and Chaya, you guys seem like a really, really young couple and wise and intelligent beyond your years. So can you both share, maybe even before you met, what are your kind of childhood family background experiences that kind of gave you this spark platform for starting all of this, this entire journey so young?
Well, I hadn't really thought about investment and that aspect of financing before meeting Heshel. I had some relatives who are involved in the real estate scene, but more on the using it as a business rather than an investment. Obviously, I have that as well, but it was never spoken about, or so I didn't start thinking about it until we started doing it together.
That makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate the feedback there. Now, can you guys talk a little bit also about um, when you guys were starting off, like you saw your own financial picture, how did real estate fit into the financial planning aspect? Because I have a feeling that, with young couples, financial planning, that's one of the toughest things to do, to try to manage all the cash flow within the household to come in and out. So maybe can you guys talk a little bit about that process and then how real estate eventually found its way in there, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I think it's an ever moving process. I don't think we can say that we're set in our ways and we figured it out. We're always adjusting and always learning about ourselves and our tendencies as a family, and where we enjoy to and our priorities and where we want to spend and how we want to save. So it's something that we're always talking about and always moving to improve on it. But it is something I think we started to talk about very early on. Like, here's where we are right now. These are the some of the goals that we want to get to and some of the things that we want to have for ourselves and our families and be able to provide a certain lifestyle for our family. Okay, and then, like, what do we need to do to get there, basically, and what are some of the steps that we need to take to be able to make sure that we're providing for our family in the way that we want to. And that's, I think, where real estate started to come into the picture, was at that point where we know where we are now, and we're starting to build a path of where we want to be, and real estate fit into how we were going to get there, and it became a dual threat in that way, both on the investment side and the business side. So it really plays an important part in our family, and something that's always on our minds, and we're talking about it at home, again, from both angles of it, as a way we can use it as to invest the money that we do have, and as a way that we can continue to grow the business.
Can you guys speak a little bit more to the personal finance side about this? Do you have any tips maybe for some young couples who are maybe starting out when you guys first did and have the spark for real estate, but also have like these finances at home that they need to manage? What kind of tips or practical tips can you guys provide that?
Tips.
Well, first of all, just to open up that conversation. I know, like, for my personality, being that we started so young, if I was like on my own, I wouldn't have started that young, because I would have been like, there's so much time for now, let's just go and enjoy life, which is like important. But obviously we have to think about the future. So opening that conversation and being like, hey, what do we have to do to get where we want to be, to the vision that we have, would obviously be the starter to that.
Yeah. And is there anything that you guys would recommend? Like, do you guys have any practical tools? Like, what do you guys use? Do you use a spreadsheet to track your finances? And, what does that look like? Do you guys meet monthly? Give us a little bit more clarity into how you guys do all of this each month.
Yeah, so we use good old Excel. Meet once a month at the end of the month, when everything's due, and kind of go through all the bills and see, hey, where do we stand with each category? So we have different categories on the Excel sheet. As life moves on, you might have to like switch your budget, switch the categories up. We allot like a certain amount to each category. And then, we go through each like credit card bill one by one, every single purchase, and see which category it fell in, what it was for. And especially, we did this like very thoroughly in the beginning, when we were still kind of creating the budget, so that we could then to see, how much we needed in each category. Yeah, anything else?
I mean, we've tried different tools throughout, and different, like Mint or or Acorn, a couple of different tools that we've tried throughout. For us, I think honestly, just having it on a spreadsheet has been the simplest way to track our finances. We also do like tracking our net worth from a month-to-month basis as well. So seeing where's our assets and where's our liabilities, and watching it grow, especially when it comes to real estate. Watching, we see when we buy a new property, you see that effect on the net worth, almost right away. So it's being able to track your net worth, and seeing how it changes and evolves by the things that you're spending your money on and where you're investing your money in, helps to bring light as to where we should be focused on and what's getting us to where we want to be.
That's awesome. Do you guys have any tips for people out there who maybe want to create their own Excel spreadsheet? I know that maybe a lot of people out there may not be very Excel oriented. And so they might need like the Mint tools or Acorn tools, which you guys probably found is not customizable enough for what you guys needed, right? So what do you guys think? Like what tips can you guys give for Excel people who maybe want to track, but want to build something and then also stick to it?
I think, on the net worth type of sheet, like on an assets and liability, I think if you just go through the types of vehicles that you're holding assets in. So if it's your bank account, you have a checking account, you have a savings account, maybe you have a couple of different bank accounts. Maybe you have a brokerage account, somewhere where you're investing in, in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or whatever else it is, and just kind of go through your mind where you're holding, your assets and where you're holding your money, and just write it all down. And the same thing on, your liabilities. If you have, credit card debt or student debt or car loans or, any other, liabilities that you may have, just spend, block a certain amount of time at the beginning where you're just writing everything down. And then as time goes on, it'll be a lot easier to organize it and put things in the right place. So I think, allot yourselves a good couple hours in the beginning to get together with your spouse and really just try to write down as many categories as you can, and then go through also your daily spending habits, I think, and separate that into categories. You have your rent or your mortgage, and then you have your your utility bills, from the most basic, your food, your clothing. It might help. We have it split out also, like in recurring bills that come monthly, and then in annual things that don't necessarily happen on a month-to-month basis, but that these things come up throughout the year, whether it's memberships or home repairs, things like that. And you start to really build out a full picture of how things come in and where things go out.
Yeah, I think it took a while. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It took a while until like our spreadsheet looked, to a way that we were comfortable with, kind of just tweaking it month by month. And I think that's the thing with Excel. You just have to be like, I'll just put that there and then see. It could get, otherwise it can just get confusing and there's so many buttons and what do you do? So if you just put things down and then it kind of arranges itself as you go through it and see what you're dealing with.
Do you have any advice for couples who, again, maybe starting, but may not be as on the same page as you guys are, maybe not as synergized, for couples who encounter a little bit more resistance because finances in general is very highly charged, right? And so any advice on that front?
I think just talk about it is the first and most important thing, is continuing to have a dialogue with each other. Yeah, I don't think we're the perfect couple by any stretch of the means. It's just continuing to talk about things and learning about your spouse and what they find important as well. And knowing that it's never going to be perfect and it doesn't need to be perfect. But having, I think, a mutual understanding and respect of where each other's priorities lie helps, and just continue to try to talk about it, even if it is just once a month. Something that keeps it in the conversation and something that keeps it alive, and you continue to adjust.
And if a couple is having difficulties coming to the same conclusions, taking active steps to show that you're listening to what the other person is saying, you're trying to bring it into the plan, and kind of compromising with each other so you can meet somewhere in the middle, which obviously the open conversation is necessary to do that.
We have something called a Shalom bias fund, which is in Hebrew means like peace in the home, which is like a certain allocation that we have where it doesn't have to be a specific, line item in the budget. It's just making sure your spouse is happy, and
That's
so there's a
very
certain
smart.
Happiness factor.
exactly.
I love that.
So nothing is it has to be perfect. You don't need to strive for perfection. It's just making sure that you're in dialogue, you respect each other, trust each other, and that you're working towards the same goals.
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit more into this too, you guys, because this seems to be like a place, and I know that we're spending a lot of time here talking about these budgeting, but back in the early days when I was getting started, this was absolutely where investing began, right? Is you take a look at what you have coming in and going out, and what you can afford to save to buy eventually, to buy property, and then if something goes wrong, you look at your worst case scenarios and you figure out, okay, how much excess income do I have to be able to feed into a property in a worst case scenario, right? It helps gauge where you are and how healthy and ready you are to invest. And so that's why we're kind of spending some time here. But in any event, I wanted to ask you guys too, there seems to be, and I got this advice from Dave Ramsey many years ago, there seems to be, a one person who ends up bringing like the budget like down, from the heavens, right? And says, here, this is the budget that we propose, and this is it right here. And then you have the spouses just kind of like folding their hands and saying, I'm not going to live that way, right? Or maybe it could be in the form of a spreadsheet, right? Where like, one person pioneers the spreadsheet and decides this is the way that you guys are going to live. And I wanted to ask if there was any of that dynamic there, or if this was like a conversation that you both had to say, hey, we should start tracking our finances now. Let's build something together. Or if one person took the lead and then there had to be a conversation to justify why we needed to have that conversation. So I just wanted to explore that a little bit, if that related at all.
I think Heshel brought that conversation in. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about it really that much, it would have been on a much more basic level, let's just say. But once that conversation was brought in, and it was like, hey, I think it was what made it more real was like when we had our daughter, and then it's like, hey, you have to start saving more for the future. You have to start investing in yourself. Now we're a family. That kind of like brought it home and was like, yes, this is an important conversation that we have to have, and keep going. You agree?
Yeah.
I wanted to see what you had to say about that, Heshel, like what it was like from your point of view.
Yeah, I think it started off as a discussion. I think, I probably had more of the nuts and bolts in terms of just putting it down onto paper and the details of it. But it was something that we did, discuss and travel through together. Sometimes it's just different types of minds and how you see things. So I'm very numbers and spreadsheet oriented. So I think we were able to kind of pull that of each other, and then actually put it down on paper, where then it's very clear when you see, okay, this is your average income per month, so your expenses per month has to be less than that. That's just
Yeah.
So then when you see that like on papers, it's a lot now easier to see it, like, okay, this is where we're at, this is where we need to be.
And while we were compiling that, if anyone is like me and has trouble kind of with having a budget and keeping to it, I did have like the apps on my phone. I know Dave Ramsey has an app that I used for a while where everything that I bought, I was like putting into my phone. Which it then put into the categories that we had decided on, which helped me see it in a more like concrete way also as we were going through it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I just wanted to say how much I resonate with your dynamic, because I think Derek brings it up because he's the numbers, he's analytical, he's like, this is where we are, XYZ. And I'm just like, what are we doing? And so, and And it definitely has to do with our individual upbringing, and it's all okay. And I think it's really important to have, like you said, highlighting what you both said in terms of conversations, in terms of getting on the same page. And for new couples out there, even if there is a little bit of resistance, lean into that resistance, right? Because a lot of beautiful opportunities can come up, and the couple can become closer. But really, I think the conversation we're having right now is really important because, as we all know, finances, financial problems, financial issues can be deep rooted cause of a lot of issues in a relationship. So I think it's really important that we're spending this amount of time because I think it's something that we can easily overlook and say, okay, well, you do that, I'll do this, and all of a sudden, things can go a little bit awry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, Kaya. So it sounds like Heshel, you guys were working together on this. How many months did it take you where you felt absolutely comfortable? And also I wanted to talk about your comfort level too, like in understanding your own financial picture. So I wanted to talk about like level of comfort starting from month one, which is probably not very high, and then like going over like a period of time, right? Remember, you're talking with a numbers oriented guy like your husband.
Yeah.
So can you tell me like how your comfort evolved and what you learned about like your household with this process?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was when we first started doing it, I had zero knowledge, zero clue. And Heshel was obviously also starting with zero background. So we kind of started from the beginning. And I didn't have a lot of knowledge in investment in general. So it's not like I had an alternative way that I could propose to do anything. So I had some discomfort, but like as I learned about it, my comfort grew kind of as my knowledge grew. And then it got to a point though where I was like, okay, this is kind of beyond me. I'm not a numbers person. I liked the like budgeting aspects and seeing kind of where the money is, where it's going, how much we have to do different things with it. But after maybe a year or so, I said like, I'll be in the background supporting. I don't fully understand everything, but I have enough trust in you that, this could be your thing. And obviously Heshel has like a lot of passion for it. So it was clear to see, and he has an analytical brain, and I knew that. So it was clear to see that like this was his forte, and I wasn't, I was fine with that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the trust that maybe this is enabled? Because I know at least with Sophie and I, when we were budgeting back then, we achieved a level of communication that went one step beyond what most couples have, where there's this division around money where like the person making the money is the one paying the bills, and whoever's paying the bills, like they're the one in control, right? Or maybe it's the person not making the money, but maybe the person managing the bills. And can you talk like is there any other extra dynamic that you guys gained by doing this? Like what else would you say that you profited from by doing this? Like what's the return on your relationship with doing this budgeting approach?
I think having the conversations and then seeing that, hey, I could have that trust that, we could kind of just do our monthly thing, and I know that it's in good hands the rest of the time. It showed like that our relationship in itself was in like a healthy place. I wanted to be like more involved in the beginning and try to like get details, but seeing that wasn't helpful to the cause, as long as we kind of met to see like what the goal is, then yeah, I guess it showed to me that like we're in that step in our relationship where like, we both know exactly where we are and where we want to be, and we can do our individual things to get there without having to constantly be on each other's back about it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that it's an extra layer of trust, right? And money, it touches so many different things. And when you have that there, and all it takes, Kaya, for you to be able to look at the budget every month and be like, yeah, that makes sense, right? Or like next month we have a birthday party, or next month, or we got to save for another car, or we got to save for an AC replacement, or, something like that, right? That gives you like confidence in both of you guys that you both know what you're doing, and it gives security too, because you also have that fund, right? That happiness fund
Can
as
you
well.
repeat that phrase?
Yeah.
Shalom bias it literally means in Hebrew peace in the home.
Peace in the home.
I love that.
That's
That's
great.
really great.
Yeah.
So okay, so
Added
Heshel,
earlier.
yeah. So Heshel, Kaya, now I want to move on a little bit, and I want to start exploring. Okay, now that you guys have your finances mostly in order, and you guys have like your own financial picture down, let's start talking about the risk taking side. Let's start talking about, deploying funds into multifamily investments or single family investments. Can you walk us through your journey, where you were with the budgeting, and like how you grew from where you started to where you are now?
Well, when we first started, I think like our first goals were, okay, spend less than we make and save what extra we have. Um, and then it has evolved, I think, now to more investments as opposed to savings. Where now I think we're comfortable enough with where we're at and where we're going that we've seen what investing can do and how the benefits that investing brings. So now it's not just, okay, we have $1, let's save it, but more, okay, how can we make this dollar now work for us with the highest, return that we can get from that dollar. So then that took the conversation, I think, to the next step, which is, okay, what should we do? What should we be doing with our money besides for it, sitting in a bank account? And where can it work for us the most and drive the greatest returns? And that's another conversation then.
Of course. And so when you started, can you give us paint a picture for, how many units you guys are up to right now, and where you guys started and where you guys are headed?
Yeah, so I mean it's a business for me as well. So the apartments and the units that we have ownership in is in partnership with our investors. So it's developed into a full business, which keeps me occupied 26 hours a day.
Yeah.
So but we're a bit over 100 units right now, and that's really in the last year and a half is where most of that has happened. Started off slower, and was also managing about 50, 60 apartments, and then started moving into the ownership side of it.
Wow, congrats. So Heshel, were you also working, or are you still working a W-2 as well?
No.
Okay, good. I was going to say that would make it a little bit harder to do all that
Yeah.
management, but I'm glad that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. Nice.
While we were still working, so we were living in New York at the time. That's when we started, I think, to explore it and see how we can get involved. Had bought a single family here actually with a few of my siblings here in Cincinnati, and kind of did that project, from out of town. And then, once we moved here is when it became, really we can focus on it full time.
Very cool. Awesome. And what would you say throughout that whole process? Like, what would you tell individuals who are looking to do what you did, going through that journey? Would you tell everyone to go follow the same path that you did, or what would you have for people who are maybe looking at where you are and wanting to be there?
I don't think there is a correct path, and there's definitely not one path, and not everybody takes the same path. I think spending a lot of time and talking to people is important. It's probably step number one. and it will just allow you to learn so much about yourself. I mean, first of all, if you start to develop a certain interest in something and you have to talk about it with other people, it helps you develop in your own mind what exactly are you looking for, what are you trying to accomplish, and you'll also get incredible feedback from other people. So if you have, other people, in your circle who you can talk to, and then continue to meet new people, and you hear different perspectives, and the insight that you'll gain from sharing with others and listening to others is incredible.
What was it like, Chaya and Heshel, when you guys were first talking at home about real estate investing in those first couple of units? Like, was there an education piece? Like, Heshel, were you trying to help educate her on what the potential was? And maybe you guys already had the vision and you were trying to like find a way to back into the vision, or was it the other way around? Like, did you already have like the execution? Like you already knew you wanted to real estate and then you went into vision? Like, give us a little bit more background there.
Yeah, there was a very big education for both of us to learn about it. I remember in the beginning, when we were living in New York, like the first thing I noticed about real estate was like a for sale by owner signs that I was just calling the numbers and talking to the owners. Like it was a lot of education. And we went to a seminar together. Fortune Builders.
Yeah. Okay.
So we went to a seminar together. That was like literally in the beginning. We both knew absolutely nothing about this, and we went in. It was like super exciting. We went into this new seminar. We had our notes and everything, and our computers. We were writing notes on it. In the most basic terms of the real estate industry, and it was
like really basic, but for us, it was like so eye-opening.
That's great. And so what did you think about it, Chaya, when you first learned about it? Like, were you open, or, how was your stance toward it going to this event?
Yeah, I forgot about the event until right now, but I think that was like a pivotal moment, because being in that event, being at the event and being in that environment, kind of learning a little bit about it, I guess I didn't know what the potential was, but opened my mind to the fact that there was potential in this. Yeah, which then I was like, hey, Heshel, this sounds like a great opportunity. And then, when he wanted to take maybe some courses in it or go to different events, I was like, yes, you have to do everything you can do, because this sounds like I had that basic understanding to be like, we need to learn more about this.
Great feedback. That's awesome. Did you want to ask anything to that?
Yeah, I'm just I'm really just impressed with just your level of openness and synergy as a couple, and congratulations too on everything that you both have achieved so far. And so as you guys continue communicating and continue maybe designing your life and acquiring units, what's your 5-year vision?
it's I think both that we're educated in the way that you have to have a career. It's not like we weren't taught where you go through the system, you go through college, you get a degree, and now you have like a lifelong career. And this is like so our goals are more, how can we influence our families and the people around us in the best way possible. So when we look out 5 years, it's okay, how can we provide for our family and for our communities in the best way. And I think we both found our passion and how we're going to get there, and are always looking for ways of how we continue to give back. We make charity an important goal. It's right up there at the first line item. So goals in terms of increasing our ability to be able to continue to give to causes that we believe in, is right up there on our long-term plans, and continuing to really develop that over time. So we're not in a place where it's like, okay, in 5 years this is where we need to be in our careers. It's more, how are we giving back and utilizing our resources and our talents in the best way.
Yeah, very well said. Okay, I have one last question for you guys before we go into our rapid round, which is another set of 5 questions. Last question is, and I'd like to hear this from each of you guys. How, if at all, would you guys say that your spouse has been influential in your success on this entire journey? So I want to hear from each of you.
We're doing real estate once you go first.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife's support literally from day one in venturing off to a new industry that we both had absolutely no idea about, and really just giving me the confidence that if I wanted to do this, I could do it, has been incredible.
As I said, I'm more in the background of like the real estate thing, providing the support. But you know, having Heshel kind of making this his career and using this as our choice of investment, you know, has allowed me to then follow what I want to do and be in school this time. You know, him with a little bit of a more flexible schedule so that I could then also fulfill my dreams. So kind of we can both do what we both feel is our, you know, what our passions are.
Very cool, you guys. I love that answer. Very nice.
you.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and head into the final segment of our show, which is the rapid round. And it's 5 questions that we ask every one of our guests. And it's meant to be answered by each one of you guys in under 30 seconds or less, unless the question implies it's a together thing. So do you want to read the questions? All right.
All right, guys. So first question for the both of you. What book has had the biggest impact on you and why?
I'm really enjoying, I don't even remember what it's called, but about Jerry Hines. So it's a biography of Gerald Hines. So it doesn't sound like it would be, you know, super, but to me, it's just further opened my eyes to like what real estate could create. Yeah, which has just like deepened my understanding, and it's also interesting.
Like the impact that he's had on the cities that he's developed in.
Yeah, like you would think it would just be like a building, but you know, it created like impacts that could still be felt today in different aspects, in all around the world.
Nice. How about you, Heshel?
A book that has a book. I need the question again.
The biggest impact on you and why? And it doesn't have to be business, or it could be any book.
I mean, if it doesn't have to be business, the Bible has the most impact on me in my life. Something that we spend quite a lot of time studying every single day and reading from, and is always challenging us to better our character and be able to give back.
Wonderful. All right. And the next question is, if people wanted to emulate your success, what is the first actionable thing that they could do to follow in your footsteps for each of you?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily suggest everybody who follow in my footsteps. That might be the first actionable. But I think networking and talking to somebody is be the action I would suggest.
Agreed.
I would say just, you know, taking one tiny thing and doing it. You know, if it's for the budgeting, getting that app and starting to write down that coffee that you bought, or, you know, being like, hey, I want to go into nursing, so Google nursing schools in my area, take one little thing, do it, and kind of see where it takes you.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. And then next question is, what small thing do most people not know about you?
Well, this is something that's very new to me, so maybe people don't know about it yet because it's still very new, but it's not really a small thing for me. It's actually a pretty big thing. But I just joined the military as a chaplain in the Air Force.
Amazing.
Cool.
So that's something new, something interesting.
Very cool. Love it.
Nice.
People don't know about me. I'm from England.
I was going to ask you. Cool.
All right.
Awesome. And the next question is, how do you guys each like to unwind and restore your creative juices?
Individually.
I like to do nothing. I like to sit on the couch and read a book or watch something or just kind of shut my brain off.
Yeah. Who doesn't? That's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just need to shut down sometimes. Go to sleep is a good thing.
You guys you said you had a daughter too, right?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I imagine that keeps you busy, and anytime
Yes.
you can do that, you definitely cherish it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. All right. And then last question is, what's your favorite family vacation spot?
We like going to like the, kind of old towns of America and kind of exploring those places. I mean, obviously any place with a beach is also, amazing. With our daughter, we found it's easier and there's, a lot of hidden treasures like throughout the country. So kind of visiting those places.
Yeah, we try not to really visit too many places twice, so always looking for a different adventure. And Chaya loves watercolors. So wherever we go to these, remote locations, we make sure to pick up a trophy that reminds us of that, that place.
Cool.
Nice.
I love it. And just out of curiosity, like so far in the United States, what's the coolest small old town that you visited?
Because it was like one of our first ones. So like I really loved Savannah, Georgia.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
It's really nice. We spent 3 days in Savannah.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's a very long ways away from where you are too, and where you were in New York. So very cool. You guys got to go down there. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys. It was so awesome to have you on and hear a lot about your guys' perspective and where you came from. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of listeners out there who are in the same spot that you guys were out in the beginning, and they're going to find a lot of use out of this. So thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the opportunity.
For sure. Before we leave, though, can you guys tell us a little bit more about where we can find out more about what you guys have going on? Your email or your website or anything out there for people to learn more about you guys.
Sure. I'm most active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Twitter is kind of a new recent outlet I've been exploring. It's actually a great community that's on Twitter for anybody who's interested in personal finance or real estate. There's a lot of great value there, and you can find me just with my name, either on LinkedIn and on Twitter.
Excellent. Cool. Well, Chaya, Heshel, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for you listeners who have made it all the way to the end, we thank you guys so much for listening to our content and listening to wonderful couples like Chaya and Heshel here. And if you want to hear more, please subscribe, wherever you're listening or watching this, please engage with us. What we want to do is we want to appease the algorithm gods so that we can continue to find ourselves going higher and higher up the chain. So we get more exposure to more people who can learn from excellent guests like Chaya and Heshel here as well. So that being said, this is Derek.
And this is Sophie.
We're signing off for the day. Thanks, everyone.